This podcast contains adult material, bad language, and spoilers.
When life gets you down, your car just won't start.
Agony art.
It's time for agony art. If you've reached a dead end, you're not sure what to do.
Agony art.
Well, agony art is for you. At times life is grand, you've got the world in your hands. Then somehow you drop that ball.
Drop that ball.
Instead of watching it fall, give agony art a call.
Welcome to Agony Art, the Agony Art podcast in which we try to solve your problems not by our own wisdom, but instead by telling you how those problems were solved in the great art of our age.
Can you put some reverb on his voice when he says that?
I will, yeah. Or failing that, just by recommending books, films, and music for you to enjoy. My name is Carl. I'm our resident film fan, and I'm joined by Aaron, our bollocking book bastard.
Bollocking book bastard.
And Liam, our magnificent, magnanimous music mucus.
Dripping out of the nostrils of rock.
What does I'm not really sure I know what magnanimous means. Is that a good thing?
I don't know really.
Yeah, I think it means like generous.
It's an M word.
M people.
They're here with me in our swanky studio for our third week with really outside our welcome, Liam's studio. Say hello, boys.
Hello, boys.
That's a Wonder Bra advert, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah.
From the 90s.
From the 90s, yeah. All 90s boys will remember it.
Only 90s boys remember this.
Now, before we begin, I want to make it very clear that we're not really here to solve real problems. All our submissions are certified 100% trivial or fictional pickles from the pickles. And our advice should almost never be followed. We're really here to have fun. So if you're having a real hard time, please check out our website for guidance on who to turn to. That's agonyartpodcast.com. Now we've got that out of the way, let's get on with it. Here's our first problem of the day. I've been happily married for a number of years, and we recently started some building work at our house. It's been a complete disaster, and the stress has really taken its toll on our marriage. Everything turns into a raging row. Does this mean we can't handle pressure together and should call it quits? Do you know...
Big steps, isn't it?
Have you heard of alliteration?
Alliteration?
Yeah.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Do you know
I went to school, yeah.
I've only heard of a little alliteration.
A little. So when a raging row reminded me of Kill Bill, and I can't actually remember the alliteration, but have you seen Kill Bill? You've seen Kill Bill and Kill Bill 2, right?
Yeah.
And in in the beginning of Kill Bill 2, they talk about Kill Bill 1, and she says something like the movie critics called it a rollicking rampage of revenge or something.
Ah.
And it's like, you can't say that in the film. What movie critics? I just hated it. I really hated it.
I don't remember that bit, to
Do you
be
not?
honest. No.
She's driving, it's black
I
and white.
probably haven't seen it as many times as you have, though.
Probably not. Well, we talked about Obsession last week. I suffer from it.
Have you boiled Uma Thurman's bunny?
Oh, yes. So let's kick this one off with Aaron.
Should we name the person first?
Let's name her Uma.
Uma. Well, Uma, maybe you need a bit of perspective. You're saying, like, we're arguing a bit because there's building work. Does this mean we can't handle pressure together and should call it quits? That's a big move, isn't it? Let's divorce because we're arguing over our building work.
It's hugely...
Building work is stressful. So I'm just going to give you a bit of perspective with Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf by Edward Albee. It's a play, first staged in 1962. It's about a middle-aged couple, Martha and George, who host a young couple, Nick and Honey, for drinks. And over the course of the evening, they reveal themselves to be desperately unhappy, arguing in front of their guests until they basically just leave out of disgust and pity. They try to humiliate each other. George fires a gun at Martha. Martha tries to sleep with Nick, the man from the younger couple who are visiting. And by the end of the play, it turns out that the son they've been talking about all night is actually just a fiction. They made him up when they found out that they were infertile years earlier. So, all very fucked up. And if you were their guests, it'd be like, oh, this is... Now, it sounds like a totally different situation, and you might not have anything to learn from this. But one way you can look at it is, if you're not arguing like that in front of your guests, trying to sleep with them while your husband sits downstairs, then you must still be doing something right. Like, you haven't hit rock bottom yet. And even if you are, Martha and George seem to have got it down to a routine. It's possible that they've been doing this for years. So it doesn't mean it has to be over for you. It might be like a new phase in your marriage, one that's filled with bitterness, resentment, arguments in front of guests. You can have some fun with it. Really enjoy that.
Shoot a gun at her.
Yeah, do you remember the argument years? Oh, such good times. Or you could actually watch or read the play, and as you notice all of these horrible things that they're doing to each other, maybe you'll have a revelation that you and your spouse are supposed to be together, and, you know, no small home improvement project can tear you apart.
Is there a reason you said revelation in an Australian accent?
Revelation? Maybe you can have a fucking revelation, mate. Get some fucking perspective.
Virgin Aaron.
33-year-old Virgin Aaron.
Why are you doxing yourself again?
I'm the only 33-year-old called Aaron in the whole
No,
of
the
the
only
UK.
33 virgin.
I know exactly who it is now.
Oh, shit.
That's really good, Aaron. That's good advice.
That was short, concise.
How do you know it's bad unless you know what bad is?
How do you know you're Jimi Hendrix if you don't argue with your wife in front of a guest while playing the guitar?
Sitting in your pit of a building work that's gone wrong.
I mean, I suppose it depends on the level of the row, isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure my mum and dad have argued every day for the last 30-odd years of their marriage, and they're doing all right.
It sounds great, yeah.
Shotguns at each other.
Yeah.
So I read the phrase, does this mean we can't handle pressure? And I've got a song in my head, and I just couldn't get it out. And in the end, I just had to roll with it. And before you say it, it's not Roll With It by Oasis.
Under pressure.
Well,
Surface pressure.
Bing, bing. Exactly. Queen and David Bowie, 1981. Hit single, Under Pressure. A song that almost never was. Do you know why?
Did they lose the tapes that they recorded it on?
I don't think so. Well, Queen were recording their 1982 album Hot Space in Switzerland, and just so happened that David Bowie was there too. So they had a few sessions
David Bowie?
together in the studio. Bowie's in Switzerland.
I'm here to buy Swiss chocolate.
So they had a few sessions together in the studio, and that's how the song was born. And it started out as an improv, as a lot of those old collaborations did, and that's quite evident in the songs. There's like a lot of scatting at various points.
Under pressure. Under pressure.
Bowie was only there because he was recording the title song for the 1982 film Cat People. The song, brilliant. If you don't know about the film, I would say, I'm guessing you don't know about the film from the looks on your
There's
faces.
James Corden in it.
No, I've never heard of it.
It's based on it's a remake, of a film from 1942. Wikipedia describes it as an erotic horror film about werecats.
Was David Bowie in it?
No, he just sang the theme tune.
Watch out for the cat people.
He only did the theme tune because the title track.
Did he
I
write
should
the
say.
theme tune, sing the theme tune?
Well, the rest of the soundtrack was done by a friend of the show, Giorgio Moroder.
Rembrandts. Oh.
We talked about him when we were talking about Electric Dreams.
Yes.
Together
Oh, and we
in
listened to him all
Electric
the way down to the secret studio base
We did.
on the
It was
retreat.
good fun, wasn't
We did.
secret studio base that we had to defend.
it? Yeah. So,
From rival podcasts.
cat people, werecats. The premise is that they turn into a cat when they have sex with a human,
Oh, God.
and the only way to turn back into a human is to kill someone.
It's quite an avoidable pandemic, though, isn't it, that one, I think? Like, just don't have sex with cat people.
How do you know who the cat people are, though?
Walk
We got
among us,
whiskers.
Carl.
So what's a cat about? They look like a person. Why are they a cat?
What's the werewolf
Yeah.
all about?
Well, they turn into a werewolf. And if they bite you, you become a werewolf. And you know it's a werewolf. It looks like a wolf.
Not during the day.
Yeah, but they can't bite you during the day. You don't become a werewolf if them in their human form bite you.
How do you know?
Yeah.
It's just general lichen law.
Me no lichen the lichen law.
You ain't got a lichen it.
Liking it or lumping it.
Anyway, Cat People doesn't help, so let's move on from that. There's been some conflicting reports though of who wrote the famous bass line to Under Pressure.
Vanilla Ice.
Interesting. Vanilla Ice apparently didn't get permission to use that sample, so there was of course a lawsuit.
That's quite glaring, isn't it? That one.
Yeah. But as for the bass line, John Deacon said Bowie wrote it. Bowie said I didn't write it, and the rest of the band were like, no, I think John Deacon wrote it.
I thought we were Quiet Riot.
There was allegedly one point where they went off to dinner, and when they came back, John Deacon couldn't remember how to play it, and David Bowie had to remind him.
Can you be David Bowie reminding him how to play it?
No, it doesn't go like that. It goes ding diddle lung diddle dung dung. Anyway, back to the song. What's it actually about? It's about the pressures of daily life, about how it can destroy relationships, about how hard living can be for the average person on the street. The lyrics even reference building work, sort of.
I love that he slips in a sort of.
Your extension is breaking.
Under pressure that brings a building down, splits a family in two because they're arguing about the building,
Oh my god, it is basically about this, isn't it?
puts people on streets.
People on the streets.
And quite unexpectedly, it also contains some lines that vaguely resemble advice. The first one, slightly less helpful, goes, "Pray tomorrow gets me higher." So you could do a bit of praying. Not sure that's going to help. But the final few lines of the song really emphasise the importance of keeping close with your loved ones during times where you're feeling this pressure. It goes, "Can't we give ourselves one more chance? Why can't we give love that one more chance? Why can't we give love, 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 give love?" Because love's such an old-fashioned word. And love dares you to care for the people on the edge of the night. And love dares you to change our way of caring about ourselves. Powerful stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know this song as well as I thought I did,
I
it
don't
turns out.
understand the song as well.
That's because you don't give love, 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 Carl.
Is that the right amount? You were really trying, weren't you?
I think it was, yeah. But, and this is what you got to do. You've got to face that pressure united with your loved ones. And you've got to give love one more chance. Dare yourself to change your way of caring about yourself under pressure.
Dun, 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 dun.
That was beautiful, Liam. You could be a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
So these cat people,
Back to the cats. So, Carl, top that, bitch.
So, this one really hits home for me. Stabs me in the chest and jiggles the knife around,
Oh.
and then pulls it out, and then I'm fine.
One of those classic stabbings.
No, I've gone through building work, but we were quite. I think my wife decided to kind of not really get involved unless she had to, which probably put me under more pressure, but probably made it easier because we didn't disagree, because it was just like she was on interior design and I was dealing with the builders, but yeah, it worked really well, and it was hellish. We didn't like it, but we got through it, and that's my example, me.
The film of my life.
But I went with Marriage Story, which I've been meaning to talk about on this podcast quite a few times, because it really gets me, this film. But it's a 2019 film directed by Noah Baumbach. Noah Baumbach. Charlie, Adam Driver, and Nicole, Scarlett Johansson. And it's, do you know, if you don't think Scarlett Johansson's a good actress, then this is the film to watch, because she just play basic roles like Black Widow and stuff. But this is proper. This is like a theatre film. You can see it on stage easily, and she's really good in there. So they're married. They work together in New York. Charlie's the theatre producer, and Nicole is in his play and lauded as really good in it as well. So she gets a job in LA to pilot a new TV show. And their marriage seems fine when you first watch the film, but they are growing apart. There's not really they don't really talk to each other anymore. And the film opens with them, a marriage counsellor. But then the move kind of breaks it completely. They're amicable, but they realise the relationship's not going to work, cross country, essentially. And they start to think about divorce, but in an amicable way, just sign the paper and that's it, no lawyers. But Nicole gets a bit nervous and hires a lawyer, and she's a proper shark. It's Laura Dern playing Nora the lawyer, not the explorer. That's Dora, anyway.
Yeah, but later in life.
Her mum was Dora the Explorer. So, and then she's a bit of a shark, so she gets really aggressive and she wants, it's like, oh, you're entitled to this, 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 and this. It don't matter if you want to be amicable. This is what you owed. And she, you should go for full custody. She's like, I don't want to go for full custody. I want Henry to see his dad. So it kind of spirals out of control, really. And then Charlie's forced to get an aggressive lawyer to tackle her aggressive lawyer, and then they end up fighting through lawyers for things they didn't even want to fight about in the first place. And it just completely spirals out of control. Charlie, it turns out he had an affair with another actress in the theatre studio. What do you call them? Theatre studio? Theatre
company. Yeah.
Theatre company. And Charlie's lawyer accuses Nicole of being an alcoholic, so it gets really nasty. And it's obviously not good for Henry, the little boy, either. So the film culminates in like a scene which is a completely theatre scene. The way you watch it is really good, in Charlie's apartment, where they start talking, let's just end this, come on, and then they end up arguing really violently, and then Charlie shouts that he wishes Nicole was dead and that he ruined her life, and then he punches a hole in the wall, and then he breaks down and he's like, what is going on and why are we like this? It's ridiculous. So that actually makes them realise they need to just get this over with, and they end up with a fairly equal divorce. And the film ends with them being amicable. Charlie's at Nicole's parents' house. Henry's there. It's like a party. And he finds Henry in a bedroom and he's reading a letter. And the letter is what Nicole wrote to Charlie. They're reading these at the beginning of the film. And they went to marriage counselling, and she said, write a letter to each other explaining why you love each other. And Henry's reading this to his dad. And he starts crying. He's like, it's really nice. Like, she's saying all the things she loves about him, and he wrote one for her as well. And he kind of like, you don't say it, but you get the idea that it's like, we've lost something here that we shouldn't have really lost. And so if they would have told each other these things at the beginning, they might not have got divorced, but at least they would have known that they have feelings for each other still, and they've shared a lot of experiences, and there is love there. So that's what my advice is, really. You don't need to definitely like write letters to each other, but I would remind each other why you're married and why you love each other in the first place. And this building work is a temporary thing, unless you're going to become property developers and live in the houses. Like, you're not going to do it again very soon. So that's one bit of pressure over. You've vowed, it's not been good, but what's good about your relationship? Hang on to that and move forward.
I agree. And that is an excellent film, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Cried a lot.
The ending gets me, writing about it made me kind of tear up a little bit. It's really sad, isn't it? Unrequited love is like my worst thing. It's like,
because you suffered from it your whole marriage.
Because nobody's loved me. I've never been loved. All my love is unrequited.
And if you're doubtful, even after me and Carl gushing over it, and the performances of Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver's an excellent actor, I think. It's got a 94% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Critic score. 85 audience score.
It's good.
A ranger came a-ranging to Old Town one fine day. The townsfolk came to meet him. They heard what he had to say. He said, I hear this town's got problems, some outlaws on the run, and I've come to solve these problems with my problem gun. Word soon got to these outlaws about a ranger new in town, and they soon came out of hiding to put this ranger down. They laughed when they first saw him beneath the high noon sun, but he soon stopped them from laughing with his problem gun. Problem gun, problem gun. Yeah, the ranger solved their problems with his problem gun.
Okay, well, moving on to problem 2 of the day. All my friends fucking love the rugby, and I can't stand it. It's all they talk about, and before meeting up, I spent all evening researching the latest results and news I nod along and pretend that I know what's going on, but I just can't do it anymore. Should I come clean or worse, try and get into rugby? We all have a history of rugby, don't we? Rugby lads.
Yeah, we went to a rugby school. Have you ever watched rugby for pleasure?
I've watched rugby, but I don't know if I had pleasure watching it. I didn't experience pleasure.
I only tend to watch it when somebody else wants to watch it, and I'm like, yeah, stick it on.
Yeah. Here's a hard choice. Would you rather watch a game of rugby or stick a cactus up your arse?
You're not a fan?
It's cactus, I think, for me. Yeah.
I did when I first read this problem. I missed the bit about staying up all night and researching the latest results. That sounds quite unhealthy.
He just wants to fit in with his friends, doesn't he?
It is quite extreme though. How many friends test their friends on the latest results?
You don't want to get caught
I'm a
out, though.
bit suspicious that you're not actually a fan, mate.
How many conversions were there? I feel a bit like this with football sometimes because I feel like there's a lot of men where it's like a go-to conversation topic. And
Yeah, but you can just say, how about that VAR decision, eh?
The trouble with Arsenal is they always try and walk it in the goal.
So, has anyone got any advice for Johnny Wilkinson Jones?
Johnny Wilkinson Jones.
J-Dubs.
J-Dubs.
J-Dubs. I can give J-Dubs some advice. This kind of struck me as similar to the football problem we had in Series 2, which was like something along the lines of my husband loves the football and I can't stand it or something like that.
Rewind.
I think my advice then was to give it a go and you might be surprised.
Meat pie.
Sausage roll.
Come on, England, give us a go. But today I'm going to contradict my former advice.
Don't give it a go.
I'm going to point you towards a TV show that came out in November 1978 and ran for a number of years.
What number?
8.
Biker Grove.
It's
Baker
called
Grove.
Different Strokes. You ever seen Different Strokes?
Is that the one where he goes, what you talking about, Willis?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's Gary Coleman and co.
I love Gary Coleman in The Simpsons where he's a little security guard.
I forgot about that. It's interesting because he actually worked as a security guard in real life at a shopping centre after Different Strokes, and I think I will come back to that in a bit.
Always coming back to things.
Always coming back to things.
See what's in front of you, Liam.
The theme tune for Different Strokes, I don't know if you know it, it was written by a man named Alan Thicke.
I know you want it. I know you want
It's
it.
his dad.
No
Yeah.
way. Thick is his actual name.
Yeah.
Robin Thicke. He sounds thick.
Alan Thicke co-wrote It Takes Different Strokes, the theme tune, with Robin Thicke's mum, Gloria Loring, who's also credited, and a chap named Al Burton. So the thing about Different Strokes is the tabloid press like to say it's cursed because all of the child actors on it had pretty bad lives to some extent after they finished on Different Strokes. So Gary Coleman, we've just been talking about, he famously sued his parents over what he called a misappropriation of his trust fund, and eventually he filed for bankruptcy in 1999. He had a lifelong kidney condition anyway that meant he was in pretty poor health, and it also was one of the reasons why he was so short, because it prevented him from growing, apparently. And they used that as a storyline on Different Strokes as well at one point. Like we just covered, he ended up working as a security guard in a shopping centre and got a load of abuse from various people, by all accounts. He
that's
got
not very nice, is
into
it?
trouble with the police a few times. He was convicted of assault at one point after punching a woman who he said was threatening him. And he ended up dying at the age of 42.
Oh, he's dead. I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was in, I think, 2007, something like that. He had a seizure. He had seizures fairly often because of his condition. And he had a seizure and hit his head. And the kind of consequences of that ended up killing him.
Is anyone wondering what this has to do with rugby?
Or music.
Or music?
Hang on, I'm not finished. So,
It's a long walk for a small glass of water, Liam.
as well as Gary Coleman, there was Dana Plato. Not sure
Oh,
if
yeah,
that's
the
how it's pronounced.
famous philosopher.
Famous philosopher.
Plato.
Famous philosopher Plato played Kimberly in Different Strokes.
I really think this role is a philosopher role. Who can we get?
She also had a lot of money troubles, as well as a drug and alcohol addiction. Because of this, she was eventually made to give up custody of her son. She was also arrested a couple of times, once in 1991 for attempting to rob a video store with a pellet gun, and again in 1992 for forging a Valium prescription. In 1998, she was so desperate for work that she decided to do a Different Strokes themed porn film.
Oh my God.
And in 1999, at the age of 34, she died of a drug overdose.
Jesus Christ.
And Willis, Todd Bridges, got addicted to cocaine. He also got arrested multiple times, once for attempting to kill a drug dealer, although he was cleared of that, and once for carrying a concealed weapon and possession of cocaine. And also once for ramming a car after he had a row with the other driver. But eventually, Willis cleaned himself up, and he now uses his experiences to help teach American school kids about why drugs are bad. So, what does this have to do with rugby? Well, back to the theme tune. The lyrics of this song are going to make my point for me here, and they say, "Now, the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some."
Put your finger up my bum.
They got different strokes. It takes different strokes. It takes different strokes to move the world. You don't need to be the same as everybody else, Johnny Wilkinson
Jones.
Junior Shabadoo.
J-Dubs. You should celebrate your differences. You should come clean and let them know that you don't really like rugby. And if they're really your friends, then they're not going to mind. And if they do mind, I think that's a good sign that you need to go off and find some different strokes of your own.
Very nice.
Is it?
I like the digression into the fate of the cast of Different Strokes.
They'll love rugby.
And very little talk about the song.
So I've got mine are rugby themed, and maybe I should have thought about the actual nut of the problem.
You're going to nut on the problem.
That will solve it. Firstly, I thought of, which I don't think everyone would think of, but is episode 15 of season 4 of Friends, the one with all the rugby.
Oh yeah, Red Ross.
1990. Red Ross. Yeah. So Emily, Ross's girlfriend, meets two of her pals from England in New York, and they invite Ross to play rugby in the park the next day. Because do you know when you play rugby in the park with your mates, you know,
It's all us Brits do. Isn't it?
yeah, we just love it, don't we? And Ross doesn't know how to play, and at the beginning he gets completely annihilated by all these burly rugby lads. And then he says, that's what he was alluding to. He goes, "I'm going to have to go Red Ross." And I was like, "What?" He goes, when I get really angry, Red Ross. And no one remembers it anyway. But Emily tells him about the weaknesses of all the players. Like, one's got no testicles or something like that. I don't know, can't remember. Which is actually a strength in rugby, maybe. Can't get kicked in them.
That's true, yeah.
And so he uses that to his advantage, and he kind of wins over the people. But I can't believe this one's called the one with all the rugby, because it's the same episode as where Chandler moves to Yemen.
I'm going to Yemen.
Yeah, which is by far the more memorable thing, isn't it? I'll ride you every day.
Yemen Road, Yemen.
I'm going to Yemen. But anyway, that absolutely provides no help whatsoever. But there is a film that's rugby related and has a pretty good message, I would say. I'm talking about, of course, 2009's Invictus, directed by Clint Eastwood.
Thought it was going to be that.
Did you?
Mm. That's the only rugby film.
There are no rugby films.
Yeah.
No one's bothered making a rugby film apart from Clint Eastwood. And really, it's about South Africa and Nelson Mandela. So, tight head prop, Nelson Mandela. No, so, it's kind of set in post-apartheid South Africa, where the country's trying to emerge as new. So, they've got a new flag, like the rainbow flag, representing people of different backgrounds. And they're really trying to push like a one South African kind of mentality. But Nelson Mandela, as new president, attends a South Africa versus England friendly rugby match and notices South African black citizens booing South Africa and cheering England. And he's like, you know what? I did that when I was in prison for 27 years as well. I didn't like South African rugby team either. So he decides that one of the ways that they can unite in a country is by being good at rugby, because they've been bad for the last few years because they've been battling internal strife. So he has a chat with Francois Pienaar, Matt Damon, and says, and Morgan Freeman plays Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela tries to encourage Francois Pienaar to really unite the team, because even the team isn't really united. And Francois Pienaar makes everyone learn the national anthem, and they have to yell it at every game and really rouse the supporters. And it kind of works. So no one expects them to do well. So they beat Australia in their opening game, and Australia are one of the big boys of rugby. And they beat France to get to the final against the All Blacks. And then they beat the All Blacks 15-2 in extra time to win the Rugby World Cup in 1995. So, Rugby unites a nation and brings it out of a troubled past into a new and bright future.
Are you saying Johnny Wilkinson Jones could... Are you basically saying he should get into rugby, like Nelson Mandela got South Africa back into rugby?
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't really know. It's the only rugby film there is. No, I would say that rugby's actually really fun to play. But yeah, so maybe why don't you, going back to the Friends episode, play with your boys in the park? And then maybe if you get into playing rugby, you might like watching it a little bit. Otherwise, I would say scrap it and just say I don't like rugby, boys, and go and find some football friends.
Well, I wouldn't say abandon your friends and find some new friends. I'd just be honest with your friends. I think you need to learn a bit about peer pressure.
Do you think you can
Johnny
not
Wilkinson
say
Jones.
anything and just not talk about it anymore? You could probably do that, couldn't you?
You could do, yeah.
Yeah.
Then when they say, what do you think, Johnny Wilkinson Jones? Because they full name him every time they're talking to him. He could just say, oh, I'm not that into rugby, to be honest. It's a bit more difficult since he's been researching for these conversations for all these years, but at some point you're going to have to be honest.
He's not into it, but he knows everything about it.
I think you need to learn a bit about peer pressure, Johnny. I mean, the rest of us learnt that when we were at school, so I've got a children's book for you. It's called Nugget and Fang, Friends Forever or Snack Time by Tammy Sauer and Michael Slack. Nugget is a minnow and Fang is a shark, and they're very good friends. Until, on Nugget's first day at school, he learns that sharks eat minnows. And when Fang finds out, he gets very sad. He can't help being a shark. He doesn't want to eat his friend. And he does everything he can to prove to Nugget that he's a good friend. He gets a Nugget tattoo, makes some presents, dances, sings. But nothing seems to work. Nugget is convinced that his shark friend is going to eat him now because everyone at school's told him that sharks eat us. Until the school gets in trouble. And it turns out that what everyone told Nugget at school was wrong. Fang saves the day. If you're young enough not to know about peer pressure, Johnny Wilkinson Jones, then you shouldn't be listening to Agony Art. And if you're old enough to listen to Agony Art but you don't know that you should never give in to peer pressure, then maybe it's time you went back to books like Nugget and Fang and learned that you don't need to love rugby to impress your friends. Stay true to yourself, you little nugget. That's it. Again, I'm being brief, but
Yeah.
it's only words, and words are all I have to take your heart away.
I got ridiculed for the way I say nugget the other day.
Nugget.
Nugget.
You know the second vowel is an E, not a U.
Nugget. Chicken nugget.
What about plummet?
Plummet.
Yeah, you said that right.
Plummet.
Plummet.
Always said nugget.
Like yogurt.
No, that's yogurt. It's a goal.
Yogurt. I say yogurt. Yogurt.
I mean, what, you have to say it 3 times? I say yogurt. Don't you?
Can you help me with my problem? I think that it might be a long shot. My problem is, you see, that no one believes that I am not a robot. Executing procedure. Problem solving.
On to problem 3. Problem 3? Pour vous?
Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle problem 3. In den Avon. London.
Oh, you're very good at speaking European.
I speak pan-Europe. We desperately need to redo our bathroom, but my wife wants to spend the money on a round-the-world trip and a new handbag. How do I make her see sense?
Do you ever have money disagreements with your spouses? Like, one of you wants to spend the money on X and the other one wants to spend it on Y. And obviously it would have to be a large amount of money because you
Who's
can't
spending
buy
a large
both.
amount of money on eggs?
People who work out a lot. Protein in it.
Omelette,
yeah.
big omelette lovers.
Omelette.
Not really. We just kind of just spend the money and bury our heads in the sand.
That's why Carl's in £50,000 worth of debt. I don't want to insult this pickle who wrote in with his pickle, but it's indicative of a relationship where you haven't talked about your attitudes towards money enough, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, in most healthy relationships, I would say you're fairly on the same page about money.
No, yeah, I think you are. I think it's more. It could also be that you want to live a certain way, but the kind of things are getting like. If the bathroom didn't need redoing, you could probably buy your handbag, go around the world. But it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, I really want to do that, but now I've got to do this. So kind of not accepting the situation as it is. But it's always going to get better, you know. Once you're in the bathroom, hopefully you haven't got to do it for another 10 years. So
Yeah,
you know.
that is the thing, prioritisation.
Yeah. When I did a talk on how banks work to our old secondary school, I have a slide, a Venn diagram. Fancy that, eh? And it's
A bit of
got,
Venn.
and it's got
Couple of circles.
it's a want need matrix kind of thing. So you got, well, I can't even remember, but you got want, need, don't want. If you want it and need it, you have to buy it. It's number one priority. If you want it but don't need it, that's number 3 actually, because need and don't want is probably number 2, and then don't want, don't need, who cares? So, and the answer is prioritise the 3s, isn't it? You got to buy the don't wants. You got to buy the don't wants and needs. Buy the wants and needs. I don't know. Scrap the whole thing.
You started so strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm loving this Venn diagram that you've explained with words.
I was wondering
Poorly.
what happens when want overlaps with don't want.
It doesn't.
You need to examine your...
Oh, sorry. There's 3 circles. Want, need, don't. Oh, fuck's sake.
Want, need, and just don't. Don't.
Go to our website for a presentation on want and need. Name for the. Should we name? What? So the writer wants to do the right thing.
Well, I know. It's because it's about money. I think it should be Martin.
Martin
After
Lewis.
Martin Lewis, yeah.
Lunch Money Lewis.
That's what they call him.
Lewis Capaldi. Money Martin. Lewis Capaldi. So I think I'll kick off with this one. Mine's very simple actually, and it kind of ties into what Aaron opened with. And now I'm being a bit cheeky, but I'm the host, so I can be cheeky. I'm talking about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Which I spoke about, last week?
Yeah, I think so. And I've
That's
also
fine, though, isn't it? Oh, yeah, you've done it
I've
before,
done Willy
though, haven't you?
Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Oh, this is risky, isn't
And
it?
also, I don't even know if the bit I want to talk about is in the film, but it's definitely in the book because I've read the chapter to my little boy 2 nights ago.
Oh, my God. You're treading a real tightrope here.
Yeah. This is almost...
Of want and don't want.
There's 75% not allowed, this example, but I'm going to do it anyway. And it just kind of relates to how the Bucket family live. So they have a 2-room house, 1 bed, 7 people. Charlie, his mum and dad, and his 4 grandparents. The 4 grandparents share the bed, and everyone else kind of just sleeps on the floor, basically. They have money for nothing. Gigs for free. I want my MTV. So they eat cabbage stew every day, and except on Sundays they have double helpings, which they all look forward to. And they just live to survive, basically. It's pretty sad. But they don't want Charlie to go without, so on his birthday they buy him a chocolate bar. And he spends the first few days just sniffing it and not eating it. And then he eats it over the course of a few weeks to really savour it. So I think that's a really clear example of waiting for the things you really want and spending your money on the things you need at the time. Because Charlie doesn't get... like in the book and the films, like, he wants more chocolate, he craves it, but he's not like a brat. He doesn't say, oh, I want this, and he doesn't like really argue about his existence either. So maybe you can either wait and then it'll be all the sweeter because you would have deserved it and done the right thing, or maybe if you have a little bit less of a good bathroom, a little shorter of a trip, and a bit less expensive handbag, you can do all the things.
Oh, compromise.
You
can
the big C word.
£10 handbags from Primark.
Exactly, you can do that, can't you?
Is that your compromise voice?
Yeah, shall we compromise a bit? What about this then? So that's my example.
Would you rather compromise with someone or shove a cactus up your ass?
Cactus again.
Always cactus. Never compromise.
My motto in life is always shove cactuses up your ass. and then ask questions after.
I agree, Carl. You do need to listen to each other. You need to talk it out and work it out, because not doing so could have disastrous consequences, as shown by Sea of Tranquility by Emily St John Mandel.
In Ben and Holly, the children's show, they go on a picnic to the moon, and Nanny Plum says, "Sea of Tranquility? There's no beach. It's not a sea then, is it?"
Nice.
She talks like that.
So this isn't like that. This is a time-jumping novel that was written during the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's got a lot of pandemic talk in it, as I'm sure a lot of the art produced during COVID-19 has. But that isn't really the focus of it. The focus is the simulation hypothesis. The idea that our existence is a simulated reality and that we're all living in it, convinced that it's real. Someone who works at the Time Institute, a time-travelling organisation in the 2400s, notices that historical documents from I actually read this one, so this is done from memory. So this might all be incorrect. I'm more correct probably when I haven't read the book, because that's when I have to look up the details. I think it's 3 different time periods, all centuries apart from each other, all appear to record the same incident, which is impossible because they were so far apart in time. And she theorises that this is caused by some kind of file corruption in the simulation we're living in. She's like, this could be proof that we're living in a simulation. She wants someone to go back and investigate these time periods so that we might finally be able to prove that our reality isn't what we think it is. And she tells all this to her brother just in conversation, but he immediately wants to volunteer as the time-travelling investigator. She says he can't, he shouldn't. Time travelling is not for the faint-hearted. You shouldn't do it. She's done it before. She's regretted it ever since. But he ignores his sister and signs up anyway. And then she tells him that if he really has to do it, he really can't change anything. He can't attempt to fix any problems or anything like that. Same as with all time-travelling stories, he must stay an observer. And a couple of the time periods he goes to involve pandemics. And under no circumstances should he warn anyone about their fate. First person he talks to when he goes back in time, he tells her that she's going to die.
Bloody hell.
Because she dies several days later of this pandemic that's going around. And it all unravels from there, obviously. In the end, it turns out, spoiler alert, skip ahead if you don't want to hear this, that actually all his time travelling and tampering with time is what caused the anomaly that started the whole thing.
Oh.
So the whole thing is a paradox. Point is that they were both right. Of course you don't meddle with time. Everybody knows that. It always has catastrophic consequences. But the brother, who's called Gaspari Jacques, weird, is also right. How could you talk to someone knowing that they're going to die in 3 days and they have no idea about it and not warn them? You'd have to be a monster, wouldn't you? Like, any person with a conscience would want to say to them, don't go to wherever you catch.
Oh, it's preventable, is it?
Yeah, she catches this virus a few days later. But because they didn't hear each other out and reach an agreement, they ended up causing a time paradox. So...
Did you say it on purpose?
Snake!
So if you and your wife can't compromise, just like Carl said, then you might also rip a hole in the time-space continuum. Don't risk it, talk it out. That's my message. And before we move on to, obviously, Liam's the only one who's got an example to give left. How would you two go about proving that we live or don't live in a simulation?
The way they do it in a Doctor Who episode I saw is everybody thinks of a number and they all think of the same number because it's all using the same random seed, and that's how they know they're in a simulation. I reckon that would definitely work 100%.
That's shit though, because random number generators tend to...
You can have more than one, can't you, at the same time with different numbers, yeah.
This is such
be a shit simulation if you couldn't randomly generate more than one number at a time.
But who's to say the technology that's generating the simulation is as advanced as ours?
I reckon if we just all refused to move one day, if, like, everyone on the planet... Well, it's impossible to reach an agreement like this, but everyone just lays on the floor and stayed still all day, the people running the simulation would think it had crashed or something and turn it off and on again. But you wouldn't really want to
Everyone
do that,
just
would you?
glitches.
Or we could all take blue pills and wake up in the real world. It'll either wake us up in the real world or
Red
we'll all
pills.
get erections.
What if we wake up in the real world all with erections?
Bonus.
Bonus. The real world is horny.
There's a lot about this online, though. I was reading up on it because of this episode. And there's all these... Some people are like, it's all a load of shit. Shut the fuck up, you idiots. But some people, are saying it's also just a philosophical question. Like, if we are living in a simulation, we don't want to find out that we are, basically, because if we know about it, they might turn it off because they'll be like, oh, they know it's a simulation now. Let's just turn it off.
I've seen the probability argument, which is something like if people are simulating realities, then they're probably going to be simulating lots and lots and lots of them. So it's more likely that we're in a simulation than the real world if there are simulations. But we don't know if they are. But if there are...
Well, that's the thing. Does it really matter?
I was going to say, it kind of is a simulation anyway. Like, there's all things you've got to do. Like, it's a rat race, isn't it? Life is a game. Old chum, come join the...
Yeah, exactly. They pave paradise to put up a parking lot, don't they? So, no, you're right. It's like, it doesn't really matter. It wouldn't change life, would it? It's not like, unless it was like the Matrix where you could unplug yourself. We find out
would
that
you
it's a
want to,
simulation.
really?
So. Well, exactly. If it was like the Matrix on the outside,
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm all right. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's a bit more comfortable in this world than it is in Nebuchadnezzar.
Zion. Yeah, like, there's still enjoyment to be had, isn't there?
Yeah.
I still have happy times.
Shoving cactuses up your ass.
Yeah, it's prickly.
But if they did turn off simulation, it would give us the opportunity to go, not like this.
Tank, I need an exit. But is the inference that we're outside the simulation, or we are just the simulation, or we're not real?
Yeah.
So they turn us
we're
off,
in
we
it.
just cease to exist.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the...
Don't matter either way. It's just fucking life, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we die, we cease to exist. So,
do you reckon the listeners are thinking, are this lot high?
man,
This
I swear, I saw a portal, man, and it was saying, "Come through me."
Oh, life is like a simulation, man. You just gotta just like deal with it, man.
Just simulate.
Well, speaking of people who sound like they're high,
What you was just gonna say. Speaking of people, my example is
when I read this problem, I'm going to be honest, first thing I thought was, why would you not want to go on a round-the-world trip?
In a balloon.
If someone said to me, you can either shit in a shack for a year and travel around the world, or have a nice new bathroom but stay at home, I'd take the shack any day.
yeah.
Yeah, I definitely would.
But they say we desperately need to redo our bathroom. That sounds like something doesn't work, doesn't it? Like, would you want to live with a broken toilet for a year? Keeps backing up.
If it meant I got to go on a trip around the world, I think I'd put up with it.
In my day,
days.
we used to have the outside toilets.
Liam is an old woman.
So, Money Martin Lewis Capaldi, if that is your real name, I'm not going to help you convince your wife out of what sounds like, frankly, a very good idea. There's a lot of amazing places in the world to visit. And the
Name
music,
3.
the music industry agrees with me. I can name many.
Pop quiz, asshole.
Though, for you, I'm going to flip that question back on you.
Sancho Panza.
How many songs about Sancho Panza can you name? How many
No
songs
More Heroes, Stranglers.
about places in the world can you name?
When you say about, does it have to be in the name or...
No, not necessarily. Yeah, the song has to be about it to some extent.
There's 9 million bicycles in Beijing.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
Rotterdam or anywhere.
Liverpool, Rome.
That's the night away. She's all like, LA to New York. Or whatever. she says.
Oh yeah, any
I
Pitbull song.
thought you were saying tonight we're going to get on the floor. The floor, that's a place.
The floor is a place in the world. You can't deny it.
A long-haired lover from Liverpool.
Yep, Liverpool again. Liverpool comes up quite a lot, actually.
Is it?
We already spoke a bit about Surfing USA a
London
few
Calling.
episodes back. London Calling. We spoke about that
Is
as
this
well,
the way
didn't
to
we?
Amarillo?
Where is Amarillo? Not sure.
Texas.
Probably in Texas. Yeah.
Africa, Toto.
Exactly. What a tune.
Have you stopped the pop quiz because you're starting to talk again and you haven't told us to stop?
You
Well,
haven't told us our score.
Yeah.
It's a pop quiz. It's not a game show.
Boing.
Yeah, you did well. Well done. Now let me talk.
China in her hand.
I'm not
It's
sure that
about the
is
country
about
China being in someone's hand.
But there is China Girl by David Bowie, which kind of counts, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I was going to say we already spoke about Surfing USA a few episodes back. That's about
Turning Japanese, I really think so.
American Boy, Estelle.
yeah, about a boy from America.
Good way, girl.
Yeah, very good. Anything else?
You carry on. Sorry, go on.
So we, I hate you so much. We already spoke about Surfing USA a few episodes back. How many times am I going to say that? And there's about 15 travel destinations there that you can go surfing in. So why not pick some of them? Manic Street Preachers in 1996 had a song called Australia from their album Everything Must Go. If I remember rightly, it was used by the Australian Tourism Board.
There's nothing
Some of their
like
adverts.
Australia.
Not that one.
If you tolerate this, Australia will be next.
Wallabies, wallabies, wallabies.
It was really about how they wanted to get as far away from media attention as possible after their friend and fellow bandmate Richie Edwards disappeared. But we'll go into that another time. There's Colombia, Mi Encanto from Disney's Encanto, which is a great song.
Colombia.
Exactly. A wonderful celebration of Colombian culture. The lyrics are in Spanish, but roughly translate to Colombia, I love you so much, I keep falling for your charm. Colombia sounds like a great place. You could go there.
A lot of the scenery in Encanto is based on real places, like, do you know, like the pink water, like lake thing they go to. That's actually real as well. It's amazing.
And all
It looks
the
like a
magic.
lovely place. And yeah,
Based on real magic.
the family Madrigal, they're there.
They live there, yeah.
And who can forget the ITV theme tune for the FIFA World Cup 2010?
Biker Grove.
I'm talking about When You Come Back by Vusi Mallasela. Do you remember it? It was one that went, sing, sing, Africa, sing, sing, Africa. It was well good.
No, I don't remember.
I remember Canaan waving flag from that time. That was better.
That was the official World... It was not better. That was the official World Cup song. No, you're wrong.
Shakira, Waka Waka.
Indeed. I mean, yeah, so When You Come Back by Vusi Mallasela, really upbeat tune, beautiful harmonies, driving drums, you can't help but move to it. And when he sings, our lost African music will become the music of the people, you can't help but believe him. Oh, it's beautiful. Sweden by the Divine Comedy, one of my favourite acts and great song. Born in the USA with Springsteen.
Oh, yeah.
Bob Dylan had a song called Mozambique about how great Mozambique is. The list goes on. And this is my advice. Listen to your wife. Make a playlist of all these songs. Get excited and have the time of your life.
And redo the bathroom. While you listen to the playlist.
No, shit in a shack.
Okay, well, that was interesting, Liam. Thank you. A list of songs with place names in it. Didn't even mention the handbag.
Handbags and the glad rags.
So, on that note, we're ending today's episode. And what was your favourite art of the day, Aaron, that you've mentioned?
Oh, shit. This always comes as a surprise, doesn't it? Even though we created this podcast and made the
decide
rules.
the content, yeah.
Oh, I guess it would have to be Sea of Tranquility by Emily St John Mandel. I didn't think it was amazing, though. I just thought it was all right.
Liam?
Why not Encanto? Great soundtrack. Love the music. Worth watching for that alone.
Toxic family in Encanto, though, aren't they? Real toxic bastards.
Mine's going to be Marriage Story. Give that a whack.
Oh, yeah.
Great
work it
film.
out.
Well, that's all we've got time for today. Check the episode notes or agonyartpodcast.com to find links to all the media we mentioned today. And for a link to the Agony Art Spotify playlist, which Liam is still running. If you have a problem you'd like us to attempt to solve, you can reach us on our group Instagram and Twitter accounts at Agony Art Podcast or on the submissions page on our website. I'd like to thank our resident Agony Arts for their contributions. Thanks, Liam.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron.
Wow.
And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more problems to muddle our way through and more entertainment for y'all to check out. See ya.
Bye.
But I'd suggest keep it light, 'cause their advice can be shite, and they won't be held liable.
Liable.
Oh no, not at all, not here at Agony Art. Agony Art. Agony Art.
Do, 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 do. Wait, that's a different song.
Come to me
On the summer breeze. When you need to show how deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to know. 'Cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down. And they all should let us be. They belong to you and me.
Would you rather be the Bee Gees or bang the Bee Gees?